It depends on what you mean by early, I mean, how early? I remember probably, I was probably 7 when they were building the first building of the facility that we're presently in, and, uh, and walking in downstairs, uh, and uh, and they were pouring the floor, uh, and watching them do that with the wire and the foundation and everything, you know, uh, and just again the men working uh, themselves to do it. I remember them climbing up the scaffolding and pouring cement into the block wall up there against the hill.
I'm trying to see how to get this. Okay.
We can move over here. There we go.
No, actually, we need to do that.
We're trying to get ourselves situated here. My family started to attend in 1955, at least as best as I know. I would be 2 years old at that time, so don't have a lot of memory. I think, as best I know, the church was meeting in the VFW hall, which is across from Santa Venetia Market there, at the time that my family started attending. That's my best recollection. That's my first recollections of being at the church. Well, I know that it met at East Street at the Minkler home. That was its first meeting place. My grandmother and on my dad's side, and my mother and my aunt attended the first service there, as best I know, and then it moved to the VFW hall, as best I know, and then it moved to the present piece of property around 1959, 1960, somewhere around there.
The first time our family came was, I believe, as I was entering junior high, is what I would say.
I think the fondest memories for me were things like potlucks, when, the whole church got together and had food, and, the kids kind of had their own thing going, and there was just this real sense of community, and the families, I feel like the families were actually really well connected to one another, and there was a lot of interaction of the community, which as a child was, was really a really wonderful way to grow up, feeling really cared for by a lot of people in the community.
One of the key things for me was being able to be around adults and listen to their conversation and be accepted in the community, was a significant point to my development.
Just being part of the adults, helping with Vacation Bible School, singing up front with Pato and the organ. I loved the organ, and I loved the piano, and I loved, that stuff. So just being able to be part of that.
I think just the joy of watching other believers grow in the Lord, and some of them, I've watched from when they were really young to now in their adulthoods. Like Pam was a good friend of my daughter. So, I've watched her grow up, and I've watched them come into their own in terms of being adults and spiritual adults. It's really been a lovely experience.
I would say my favorite memories are the people that I had the opportunity to work with who did not have a Christian background, had not grown up in the church, and were struggling. And to see them accept Christ and to begin that journey with him, and to see them struggle because they didn't have that heritage that undergirded them, and to watch them develop, and then to watch them become more and more of who Christ wanted them to be. And I actually call those people my heroes. Those are my heroes, because for them as new Christians, starting a new heritage in their family line, I have always found that they struggle. You know, that's a struggle for them because they don't have that foundation to build their life on. But I find them the heroes because they're laying a foundation for the generations that are to follow them. And so that's what I find exciting, and that's what I enjoyed watching happen in their lives, and seeing that, and then just watching people grow, watching people figure out, you know, the journey, and allowing them to enter into deeper communion with Christ is because I could not measure things by crowds, and so I because crowds weren't there, you know, and so the Lord had to show me a different way of seeing significance in the ministry that I was doing.
You know, when times were difficult and you would have rather seen one thing, but the church went in a different direction, just that ability and the importance of hanging in there with the people of God and watching God either change my heart or just work out what he was doing in the church, and just learning to really understand the importance of really committing yourself to a people and loving them, and what that really means in times when it didn't always feel good.
I would say the most dramatic experiences of God was in when we were building the lower building at the church. When we were building the building, we had a fella come and visit the church whose granddaughter was attending the preschool at the time. He walks out that Sunday morning and says, "I own Jackson's Hardware. I see your building downstairs. I want to open an account for you to come in and take whatever you need for the building project." And that probably totaled $30,000 to $40,000 worth of material retail value. So, you know, I mean, every nail, every, you know, tape that went onto the sheetrock, every, you know, all the wiring, all of that stuff was donated from a guy who was not a Christian. And, you know, I met that first time I met him, he was generous in making that offer.
I remember the bus ministry and the miracle that was, because we had no idea when we started, and we were real young then, especially when it first started. I mean, we were bringing in 50 to 100 kids on a weekend on buses. And I remember teaching in a Sunday school class in the upstairs before the remodel of 25 to 30 3- and 4-year-olds in one small room all by myself, and having so much fun, and people thinking we were insane. I mean, and by this days, if you had 25 or 30 kids in one room, you'd get arrested. And the reality is we had a great time, and God did a lot with very little back then. For me, it was the place. You know, it was where we met. It's where we, until 4 years ago, lived our whole life, raised our children. Christian Church of Santa Fe Christian Church, Anthem Church, Epic Faith, whatever name it had throughout the years, that was the place that God gave as an answer for me and for our family, from my standpoint.
So outside home, the church was the centerpiece of our life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was the centerpiece, and so it has a very significant role in our lives and in our future even.
Mm-hmm.
I think the continuity of having a place in the community where I've, you know, felt accepted and loved and welcomed, you know, has really allowed me to flourish in my spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of my history. It's part of my family. It's part of my heritage, and so it has a very significant place. To have been able to pastor in the church that I grew up in was interesting in some great ways, and then interesting in some challenging ways. I mean, it's been so much a part of my formation of my personal relationship with Christ, my personal journey with Christ, and then the people that I probably got more out of the journey than the people who were there while I was pastor, as far as becoming who God wanted me to be and becoming. So, I have deep love for the church, and desires for it to flourish in whatever manner God desires it to flourish.
Amen.